Hello and welcome to Rock the Casbah Block 8. This block is a really simplistic in style but such a striking block. It is a square and then looks like a square on point and is finished off with some 3D stitching which just makes the block pop. Let's get started. So first of all, we are going to need our cutaway stabilizer and we are going to place our embroiderer's felt on top of that. You want to use wash away thread in the needle because we don't want those threads showing through at the end of our project. Now we stitch colorway 1 and then what I'm going to do is trim away the excess fabric from around that block. It's important that we do this because we don't want those excess threads showing, those excess fabrics in the seams of our quilt. It will leave a quilt as you go quilt incredibly bulky and difficult to maneuver. You'll notice that I'm using a large pair of curved tip scissors. I always love my curved tip squeezies. These ones are just a little bit bigger. That means they can handle the felt. Then I'm going to take my cotton fabric, 100% cotton naturally starched, lay it on top of that felt, and with the wash away thread still in there, stitch out colorway 2 to secure that fabric to our project. And that gives us the base of every block that we are going to do within this quilt. And I'm then going to change to my deep wine colored thread, so I can take the wash away thread off now. Change to my deep wine colour thread and I'm going to stitch out colorway 3 to show where to lay my fabric down. Now, one of the joys of this block is that it is actually simpler than it looks. It's all in the magic of the fabric. So you can see here I'm laying my fabric down and stitching colorway 4, which is going to secure the fabric, and then using my curved tip squeezy scissors I can trim away that excess. So far we've just got a basic square. Now colorway 5 is going to stitch out in a triple stitch the inside circle, and we're going to get rid of that. I like a triple stitch in this particular instance just because it really secures the fabric. We're also going to stitch the first outline of where we're going to place our pink fabric, and I've been lucky enough to use up a whole heap of my scraps with this outline. So colorway 6 is going to hold that scrap down and then we will trim away. Now you'll notice that I'm then coming through and I just need to get under the first layer because I only want my white fabric to show through. So do take the time just to cut that first layer, and then you've got that perfect circle there in the center. And then we're going to come through and outline colorway 6, lay our fabric down, stitch colorway 7 to secure it. I'm just loving the fact that I can use up some of my scraps here. So as I was creating this project, I made sure that I came along and I did a full, I kept a scrap basket as I was going on, just in Ziploc bags, so that I could make the most of the quilt. We're now up to colorway 9 was the tack down, 9 was the outline, 10 is our tack down here. And then we'll do our trim away. And then we've got colorway 11 for the final pink element, and it already looks like it's come through and it's locked through. I really love the simplicity of this design, but what it does give us. And that was colorway 12. So that is the last of our applique fabrics that we're going to lay down. And now I'm going to come through, and with my wine coloured thread still on, I'm going to stitch colorway 13, which is going to do the satin stitch around our block. The satin stitch that I like to use, you'll notice that it is a nice wide sexy satin stitch that is going to beautifully cover your fabric. If you do find that you have any problems with the satin stitch not quite covering, there are two reasons that that can happen. The first reason is that you have trimmed your fabric not close enough. It's one of the reasons that I love the curved tip scissors. Second reason is that your tension might be a little bit off, and you might need to just play with that tension a little bit. Now you'll see that I'm stitching at quite a clip along here. In real life I was stitching at about 500 to 600 stitches a minute. This block wasn't incredibly long, but I think it did take about an hour and 10 minutes to complete. So just to, you know, I like to let people know what they're in for when they start each of the blocks. What I do love is that there are only a few colour changes, even though there are 18 stops within the design. The needle that I've used is an 1175 needle. It's the needle that I use for all of my stitching. And you can see we're just coming right around that first square. One of the questions that I've been getting a lot with the Rock the Casbah collection is, do I have to use embroiderer's felt? And the answer is, of course, no, you don't have to. I choose to because I think it gives it a better look. What it does is it gives the stitches something to form around and just leaves everything looking that little bit nicer. If you have trouble sourcing embroiderer's felt, I do carry it here in Australia. You can also use Parlon, which is fundamentally the same product. It's just the felt that I get is a 150 wide felt, and the Parlon is, that I've found, has only ever been a 90 centimetre product and quite expensive. The other question that we get is, do you have to do the quilting with it? And the answer is absolutely not. If you want to put your blocks together as in a traditional quilting method, once you've finished the actual embroidery stitches on your block, excuse me, you can simply stop there and piece your quilt together in a traditional method. Okay, so now we're coming to the satin stitch on the inside. There's something so zen about watching a machine work. I am constantly fascinated just by watching the beautiful stitches stitch out. Okay. So we're coming along to the end here, and then we're going to load in our deep pink colour thread, or whatever thread you're using. Colour has been one of the really interesting things with this project. I've seen some amazing colours that people are doing. Feel free to use your imagination. One of the favourite ones that I've seen so far has been the lady who's doing every block in different colours. She's using up her scraps, and it just looks brilliant. It really does have that Persian tile look to it. And I'll just trim there. I've got my deep pink in now, and I'm going to stitch colourway 14 to stitch all of those elements. I've been lucky enough. As I was doing, I had all of my white fabric, so all I actually purchased was the 4 colours when I put this project together. And so I'm calling that a win for using things up. I had all of my backing fabric and I had all of my wadding as well. If you don't have a complete amount of anything, try scrapping the back of your quilt together. I've seen some amazing results of people who've put as much effort into the backs of their quilts as they have into the front. Okay. And that's our first section there. Now I've got something, I need to rethread my machine. Excuse me for one moment, guys. Murphy's Law says it's only when you're on camera that things are going to go wrong, doesn't it? So this is a single block in the Rock the Casbah collection. There are 30 different blocks altogether, as in 30 different designs, and there is a total of 48 stitched blocks. Depending on the size that you make will depend on the size of your quilt. Oh, excuse me, I'm not doing well today. The designs, depending on your machine size, we offer the designs in 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9 inch blocks. So there will be a size that will best suit your machine. And we come through. And as you can see, it's actually the pink element, first of all, that has more stitching on it, which I find fascinating, than the deep wine. And it's almost a trick of the eye sort of a design. When it comes to threads, I like to use polyester thread. That is just my thread of choice. It works on a great range of machines for me. What you choose to work on is, of course, totally up to you. And every machine is different. When it came to the wadding for this project, because while it's doing this detailed stitching, it is a great time to prep your backing and your wadding fabric. And the wadding fabric that I have used is a polyester. And the only reason I've used this particular fabric is because it was there. It was as simple as that. on to the last segment of our deep pink. The thread that I've chosen for quilting on this project, I've chosen to quilt my blocks in white polyester embroidery thread. You can choose whatever thread works for you. I'm using a white background fabric, and I also chose to use bobbin fill on the back, and that's just because for my project it's strong enough. You can choose to use whatever you would like. And I've seen some people do a magnificent job on using cotton quilting thread. Where people have come in with a couple of issues is when they've put, say, a different colour backing on the back, and just getting that thread tension right to show one bobbin fill colour and one top colour that doesn't impact each other. That can be troublesome. So do take care with that one. And this is the last of our deep pink stitching, and now we're going to change over to our light teal fabric, and I really love this element in this block. It's the type of stitch that we've used gives it a 3D sort of a look. It's a almost an echo, a shape echo stitch, and the way that it wraps around the feather element gives it the look that it's almost popping off the screen. And with the satin of the colour of the embroidery thread, it just looks magnificent. So we come through and we do each of these segments all the way around our block. And you can see there how it's just really lifting the colour. Now, as you come through, if you do end up in a place where you're getting a lot of shredding of your thread, there's a couple of solutions you can try. First thing I try, and you can see there I've just lost my needle there and I've had to rethread. If that happens a couple of times, first thing I do is check the needle. Does the needle need changing? Second thing I look at is, what is the thread doing? Is the thread, is it a quality brand? Is it just getting old? And a new trick that I have been taught is the thread serum product, which is a new product that we're stocking, which is a water-based silicone lubricant, and it plumps up that thread. You know, sometimes when your threads are getting a little bit old and they get a little bit flat, this plumps up those threads and allows them to work correctly through most machines. So it's another way to save a thread that might be aging or just not working well. I use the thread serum all the time when I'm using metallic threads because it just makes the threads work magnificently. Okay, so in this case it seems to just be a random thing. I'm coming through, I've only had that one thread break. I can deal with that. And you can see what I'm talking about with that 3D look. It almost looks like there is a curve over the circle of the design that we've created here. So I've got my backing fabric pressed, I've got my wadding ready, because the next thing we're going to move on to is our quilting. So I'm going to remove the hoop from the machine and I want to change back to my water soluble thread. I'm now going to come through and I want to place my wadding on the back of the design here. Cover the area. Mine's a little bit bigger than I need, and that's okay. And then stitch colorway 16. Once that's been stitched, I want to come away and trim all of that excess wadding off, because once again we do not want this in our seams. From there I can take my backing fabric, which I've ironed, lay it over the project, and then flip the machine over and return the hoop to the machine. Now, colorway 17 is still going to be in the wash away thread. And what you will notice as you do this is there is a slight difference between the outline that we first stitched and the outline that we've stitched now. That's because the embroidery sucks the fabric in a little bit. The reason we use water-soluble thread is because we are going to work to our last line that we've just stitched, and we can just get rid of the lines altogether with a little dab of water. So now we are on to colorway 18, which is the last color, and it is our quilting design. Now the design that I've quilted with here is called the circle glitch, and to me it looks very modern. It's sort of semicircles with lines through them, and I thought it just went so well for this geometric based block. As always, as well as this design that we are stitching here, which is an all-in-one quilt as you go, you also get the quilt block as a single design that you can use for any sort of project that you wish, and you get it as a continuous quilting design as well. Okay, so our quilting's done. Let's come and have a look at the finished project. I'm loving this block. I think the colours are dramatic. The stitching is just perfection, and the quilting just shows it off to its best effect. So this is block 8, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you have any questions, send them to us at sales@JulieHallDesigns. And other than that, we look forward to seeing you for the next Rock the Casbah quilt block. Until then, have a stitching day. Bye.